Brace yourself, everyone. Radio speculation videos will be dropping today, basically, because Radionity introduced a new radio, the G7250, a 100-watt HF and 6-meter transceiver. Let's talk all about it because the news is so hot and fresh. All right, so a couple of major features right up front. We're going to go through the features, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, because I got some background throwing back to that guy that you may remember. But, okay, the 7250 is being advertised as a 100-watt desktop-powered radio. They're saying it. We're hearing it. We're reading it. It's a desktop radio, meaning you put it in your shack and you use it. You can kind of see from this image, they're not really taking this portable, although sure, you could probably put it in a car. Oh, I'm speculating already. Hold on. We got to get through this. Avant-garde split design. So think of the ICOM 7760, right, that just came out. Pretty expensive radio. This is probably going to be cheaper than that. SDR architecture, as is most of the Xiegu radios, which this is a Xiegu radio. 7-inch touch and physical control panel. We'll talk about the physical controls in a second. Network baseband streaming. So I'm guessing that they're using some kind of a lower compression. Oh, I'm speculating again. We'll get back to that. It's going to have network connection. It'll allow for the box control, which is that thing that's underneath it, to the tablet/screen. You'll be able to control it network-wise. Again, what'd it say? Lightning fast built-in ATU. Xiegu has always been very good at the tuners they have made, both for the Xiegu G90, a benchmark. Everybody loves that thing, including their 100-watt amplifiers. People say that those tuners work pretty well. I've had difficulty with mine, but I generally use resonant antennas, so it's less of a big deal for me, but that's also an important note for later. Voice recording and CW messaging. That's great, implying that you could be able to record CQ POTA, CQ contest, and then you can click a button and it'll play it over and over again. Same with CW. You can key out something like CQ contest or CQ POTA and it'll do the whole thing. Okay, cool. You can reserve your spot. We got the link in the video description to check it out. There is this one image, and we'll see another one right here, which I think this is kind of a mock-up. Pretty interesting. I like the Star Wars-esque kind of look to it, a little bit of the Empire theme going on. It breaks down key features going into this further, but I think we kind of get the idea. Insofar as it also has a block diagram. So we've got okay, cool. So this is great. We've got a bit of discrete components up front. We got a bandpass filter. Here is your analog to digital converter. Then you have your FPGA, which is going to be the computing body that's doing a lot of what you would expect radio to be doing. So your notch filtering, your actual filter control for bandwidth, and then you have another digital to analog. So that's going to take you from out to a speaker or something along those lines, or whatever their audio interface is. And then off of that FPGA, it goes to the display unit, which, interesting, 2 lines implying one path is for audio and one path is for the display unit, which I'm not seeing a speaker on the display unit, so it's possible that the screen is just a screen. There may be some I/O, but I'm expecting the I/O is now going to be on the body of the radio. Maybe I'm wrong. FPGA does have DSP, whether that's inclusive of the software that's running on the FPGA or not, I'm not sure. It could be discrete components. Then on the transmitter side, you have your mic. Here's your digital to analog converter, DSP for signal processing. If they're doing that on the audio, what would that be, like a compressor? FPGA again, then analog to digital, back into a bandpass filter, and then you got your outward chain for your radio. Your amplifier, your low-pass filter, and then ATU is kind of the last thing. So very good. Okay, cool. I'm actually really glad they put a block diagram in for that. That's great. What kind of modes does this cover and frequencies? Well, 0.5 megahertz all the way up to 30, plus it includes 6 meters. It supports single sideband CW, narrow FM, interesting, AM, and digital. Very good. With the screen, which is pretty big, and a separated body advertising a 1.2 amp draw on receive, which is pretty interesting. That's not a lot, particularly for a base-sized radio. This will take 9 volts all the way up to 15 volts. Very cool. Assuming you can feed it the 25 amps that it needs for the max output of 100 watts on HF. Let's see, 50 megahertz gets you about 90 watts. There is no distinction between it being 100 watts on digital or single sideband. Only some radios will give you that. Now, the tuning range, where is that? The matching impedance for the tuner. So what do we expect? A 50 ohm impedance for an antenna and feed line. That is a 1-to-1 matched SWR. This is advertising anywhere from 20 to 150 ohms of resistance. So it is a 3-to-1 antenna match. If you're familiar with the G90, that's more like a 10-to-1. It's a more capable tuner. What is the difference there? Well, as you add power output to the tune of a 100-watt radio, your tuner has to scale non-linearly, almost logarithmically in size to be able to deal with that matching that you would have to do to get to 10-to-1. So if you wanted a 10-to-1 tuner on a 100-watt radio, it's going to be very big. And you can see a lot of those external tuners are almost the same size as the radios that they're running for the discrete components that they need to be able to do that. So everybody in the chat, before you freak out, oh, it's a 3-to-1, tuner. It's not going to be able to take my random wire. Yeah, it probably won't tune up a random wire. Keep that in mind. It's kind of the nature of the beast. If you need something that serious, you should probably upgrade to an external tuner anyway for a 100-watt radio. That's all we know. We don't know price, but considering what the 6200 is going for right now on the market, upwards of $600, close to $700, it actually might be more than that. Hold on, let's confirm. We're on the website. We can do it right now. Oh my gosh, it's actually $750. So $750 for a QRP radio like the 6200. All right, hold on, time out. We're entering speculation zone. That's right, speculation zone, where I'm going to now tell you my thoughts on what we see. Of course, I don't have the radio. You're watching this just to hear news about stuff. I appreciate that. Don't hold me to a higher level than anyone else online. I am no authority in this space. I'm just talking. We're just talking now. We're just having fun. All right, so the 6200 at $750 tells me that this radio, this new radio, is probably going to be $1,200. $1,000 to $1,200, and I think $1,000 is probably what you're going to find on those Xiegu deal days where they like deeply discount something. That's what it feels like. Maybe $1,000 though. Maybe. Hey, speculation land. Again, Radioddity and I, we have not talked. I did send him a message like, hey, what's up? Can I take a look at that sweet radio? I haven't heard anything back yet, but I'll probably grab one anyway to take a look at it to do a video review on, regardless of the situation. So when I saw this picture, can anyone guess what immediately jumped out at me? Can you? Can you guess it? The Flex Maestro. It looks very much like the Flex Maestro, down to those buttons. See that receive and transmit button that has a bit of like opaque sidewalls and the letters so that the light shines through? That's exactly what we see on that like reddish button, and a lot of the buttons actually kind of have that little outline to it. Very, very much a Maestro looking device when you see them side by side. Now, of course, how much is the Maestro? On its own, $1,600, and it's not a radio. It's just the control head. Some curiosities people were asking, it's like maybe we can run this without the head unit. That's just a network-aware device that maybe we can run SDR software like Thetis or something along those lines in the future. Maybe there will be a modification somebody comes up with, hint, hint, to be able to unlock that capability. Because that box size is not that bad. You can see it there with the hands. The box for the 100-watt radio, and we see it right here. Not bad. 100-watt radio, fully enclosed, maybe network capable. No mention of Wi-Fi, but we would love to see Wi-Fi. If I could zoom in on some of these images, that would be wonderful, but they are just crummy and low resolution enough that I can't pull it out. Bummer on that. A couple of other things. So I feel like Xiegu has done a really good job of carving out a very important part of the amateur radio market, particularly in portable HF radios. The G90 is beloved by many people. 20 watts. It's really not that much of a slouch up against a 100-watt radio, and people have fallen in love with those tuners. That tuner that it has in it is fantastic. You can tune up just about anything you want. The G90 is also pretty portable, right? People have asked, Josh, would you go with the G90 or would you go with the Xiegu FT891? And I always say if you have the money, the FT891 is a 100-watt radio, but the G90 offers more utility in that it has that tuner and it has that SWR plot. And I believe it's a slightly newer radio, meaning it's also been firmware upgraded up the wazoo. The G90's had a lot of upgrades over the time. So for me, it's really a coin flip in a lot of cases, G90 versus the 891. Budget's going to be the strongest indicator. With that said, I think a lot of people are looking for an 891-like radio, and they didn't really get that with the FTX1, or they're looking for the next 857, right? The Xiegu 857, very popular radio. We want to see that radio like that come out by anyone at this point. And this isn't really scratching the itch, right? Because it is a base station radio as advertised. We can see a little network port there now, so that's a good thing to note. A couple of comments that we got over on my Discord and on Facebook is that there is actually 2 antenna connectors in here somewhere, that they surmise that by looking at these images, which I'm pretty impressed. Maybe that's true or not. I don't know how 2 antennas would matter in this case because it's HF plus 6 meters. I'm kind of curious what we're going to learn more about this. A very nicely done announcement, though, because I had no inkling of it. I don't know many people who had any inkling of it. So I think it's going to be pretty popular when it hits the market. But here's the thing, and here's where I'll leave you, as I kind of hint at earlier. So this is the G-SOC. Yes, this is running. I still have a G-SOC, believe it or not. This was a head unit that was sold as an add-on to the G90, and a lot of people went for it. It was an interesting market spot at the time. The 7300 was getting popular, and Xiegu wanted to tap in on some of that big screen market with the waterfall, and they created the G-SOC. Ultimately, though, it was not a successful product, as you had to kind of remove the head unit of the G90 and plug this in via serial. It was a little bit cumbersome, and it certainly didn't make portable operation easier, which arguably, going back to what I said earlier, was the bread and butter of the G90. So it was kind of a flop. It did get a couple of upgrades. Yeah, you can actually see those buttons. Very reminiscent, right? Those buttons there. It got a couple of upgrades over time. There's not many people. I don't know of anybody who's still using them. I should actually do a retrospect when we do see the G7250 hit the market against the G-SOC. I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'll be able to find the actual firmware upgrades for this, and we'll take a look at it. But going back over some of the points I mentioned earlier, network baseband streaming. Heard a lot from Flex and Elecraft and a number of other companies that are doing remote radio, or they have a head unit that can be network somewhere. So think of like the 7760. And the way they handle that bandwidth, that transmitting of data, is really important, because you want to transmit over the internet the least amount of information possible to give the end user a really nice experience. And so they're advertising network baseband streaming. Maybe that could be highly optimized. Again, we're all speculating at this point. Don't know what to expect. The fact they mention it, though, hopefully we'll hear more about it and it'll be fun. So, where are you on the new G7250? I did reach out to some folks on the Discord and my Facebook, and I'm going to read some of their comments, but I'd love to see your comments as well in the video description below. If you need more places to sound off, feel free to join us on our HRCC Discord. You can see all these topic areas of ham radio goodness, and there's people on 24/7 talking. But I made a thread here on the thoughts for the new 7250, and you know, when it comes to new radios, I just think they're neat. Until I get my hands on them and they prove themselves otherwise, I'm always excited for a new radio. So I'm very excited to see this. But let's go through some of these. KE2GQI, Max said, definitely interesting. My first thought upon seeing it was wondering why Xiegu was making an oscilloscope. It does give a little bit of oscilloscope vibes. Not to say that's not a good operating position. I do like that, but yeah. So pretty interesting from Mr. Beverage. I think he nails it. I'm unsure how well Xiegu will be able to market this rig. They can market the G90 fine because it's an okay rig at a low price. 100%. This is obviously intended for a more advanced audience, and if the price is around 1,000, which I highly speculate that it will be, that is not much cheaper than a 7300 Mark II, or the numerous radios that are available from Xiegu as well that are really good. They're really good competitors out there. A lot of people mentioning they expect it to be $1,000. I agree. In fact, KD9WI believes the price will be. I'm not sure if that's backwards. 700. I'm guessing. I think they mean $750 to $1,200. I think that's a fair price because that literally covers the gamut price range between the lowest offering 710 from Yaesu up into the 7300 Mark II, and kind of gets you close to the FTDX10. All fantastic radios. And I think he also nailed it that the tuner looks to be similar to the one that's in the XPA 125 Bravo, which is an amplifier. You would plug that in. It's not going to give you the same capability as matching a random wire, but it'll still do a pretty okay job. Evan AE4GT says even if it's just Chinese 7300 with a big screen, the big screen will be a big selling point for many people, whether or not it needs to be. This is a really interesting comment. We kind of talked about it a little bit. The main thought here I have with that is when a Chinese radio starts to nip at the heels of a Japanese radio, what does the market do? Does it just pay the extra money and get the Japanese radio, feeling that they're getting more quality radio, or have the Chinese radios come up to the point that they're almost seen as an equal? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. I'll put a poll in the bottom if I can, because that's a really interesting question. For a long time now, no one was really placing Chinese radios at the same level as Japanese radios. Now, as manufacturing has gotten better and parts have been shared among different manufacturers, we're at a point where maybe that's changing. I don't know. Love for you to tell me in the comments what you think. Big speculation from KD9WI Aiden. The screen has a different model number in ending in M, if you noticed, which makes me believe it might be a new G-SOC. I believe they will sell just the base unit, which I would like to see that. That'd be kind of curious. If you can get the base unit around $800, you might have a compelling option for some SDR interested people, particularly those who just want to remote a 100-watt radio with an internal tuner that can be accessed via the SDR software. That's kind of high because, again, you got a 710 sitting right there, but it doesn't have the networking capability. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm kind of curious about that. Maybe it's a twofer. Maybe you can get a combo. Maybe you can just get the base unit. Kind of interesting. I have my own curiosity in there as I'm kind of curious how the screen connects. After seeing the networking cable, I fully believe that it's a network connection. And now I will say one thing, that if they can do it, consider wireless. Consider wireless access. I think that particularly for home users, they're going to want that over having a permanently wired connection to the tablet. I know that that's the thing that a lot of devices do. That's what my 7760 does, but it doesn't really, the 7760 doesn't really give me handheld tablet vibes. And if we go back, that's kind of giving Maestro vibes. Again, the thickness is a little thick, but I mean, you could kind of handheld it, maybe sit on your lap. I don't know. I'd like to see if it was wireless. That would be cool. I think that POTA has exploded and that the G90 and a lot of the Xiegu radios have been very popular with POTA. This is more of a slide to the right from that market. I don't think that this is going to be a POTA-friendly radio for a lot of people. I can't imagine people setting up at a park bench with this. Maybe they'll mount it in their vehicle, but that's a pretty big head unit to put into a vehicle. But I've seen crazier things with Maestros in Jeeps. Shout out to my buddies on Instagram that show off their sweet rigs. So yeah, there you go, guys. What do you think in the comments? I would love to hear your thoughts about the new 7250. Post your comments below. Appreciate the support. Check out the links in the video description, and I'll talk to you later. 73.